Huddle Up Podcast is sponsored by Arena Eats. Log on to the website arenaeats.app, that's arenaeats.app, for the ultimate fan experience. At your favorite sports venue, Arena Eats mobile app, pre-order, express pickup, and in-seat delivery. How do you place your order? You know, you guys, Eagles fans, I obviously am not. Over the last couple of weeks, we've seen, the change at quarterback we talked about back when it was going to happen, if it was going to happen. Now that it has happened, we have a couple of games. We've seen Jalen Hurts at the helm, and the Eagles, by all accounts, look like a much different team, much better team. The play calling looks different. I'm not saying it is, by no means is this just a Carson Wentz issue. Like, I'm not one of those people. I think those people are out of their fucking minds. But with that, we saw the report on Sunday that if the Eagles are going to continue with Jalen Hurts as their quarterback, there's a report that Carson Wentz wants out of Philadelphia. First off, let's start with that, because I've seen the reaction from some Eagles fans that are fuck Carson and he's selfish and blah 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 and fuck him, let him leave, blah blah blah. Like, it just feels like, and maybe this is an outsider's perspective, because I live in Pennsylvania, but I'm obviously not an Eagles fan. But this just feels like such an odd take in how quickly it went from, because being a Cowboys fan, the argument was like, Carson's like a top 5, top 7 guy, top 7 quarterback, so much better than Dak, this and that, and just how quick that switch got flipped to fuck this guy, let him leave. And I'm going, like, I don't, and I'm not necessarily saying he has to be their quarterback, but it's amazing to me how quick that change came from a fan base. I don't know which one of you two wants to take this one first. You could fight that out amongst yourselves. But it feels like just such an odd it feels like such an odd thing, man. I feel like it went so quick.
Go ahead. I'll let Tom go first. Jim, are you new here? You do not know Philly sports? How is this odd to you, like, at all?
Yeah, welcome to Philadelphia, where the most popular athlete in the city is whoever's number 2 in the QB depth chart. So if anything, maybe Carson Wentz wants to sit there for a little while, wait for the struggle, the first sign of struggle from the
first like 2 interception game from Hurts, and Carson's like,
yeah, throws like 2 picks against Dallas.
Right, it could happen this week.
At halftime. It's an interesting situation. It's a bizarre one. I'm a member of a few Eagles fan groups on Facebook, and I got people sharing quotes that I'm not even sure are real about, how Carson Wentz is making this much money. Jalen Hurts would be the least paid quarterback next year. Makes it a no-brainer going forward. And I'm like, yeah, except that Carson Wentz costs you almost $30 million on the cap each of the next 2 years, even if he's not on your roster. Now, I don't know, all the ins and outs of, like, can you lose some of that in a trade? I know that it's not very – I know if you cut him, you're definitely on the hook for all of it, at least from a cap perspective.
Right.
So you can't do that. And I think, in my opinion, the only way that a trade works is if the piece you're getting, maybe there's a team with a similar situation at a different position. Maybe you have a stud linebacker or lockdown corner that you're overpaying. It's not working out for your system, and you're willing to eat some cap money to ship him. So, like, maybe whatever you're spending on Wentz on another roster, you can in your mind say, well, we're actually using that on this player. So I'm hoping that scenario plays itself out. But I don't see that just walking in your front door. So I think there's a good chance both these quarterbacks are on the roster again next year. So you got to figure out how the dynamic's going to look. And I don't think coming out of the end of the year that Wentz is definitely in a backup role next year. I think it's going to come down, they're going to say it comes down to camp but you better be able to prove that camp to your fans and the media, or it's going to be a storm against Wentz again. when he starts week 1. So I don't know. I think they're going to be fighting it out in the preseason, and I wouldn't be surprised if come next year you see him kind of alternating quarters or alternating series through most of the first 4 phony games, just to see what happens. But right now, I mean, there's not much Wentz can do, and there's not much Peterson can do. I mean, you threw Hurts in there. He had a decent day his first game, found a way to win, and in a game that they should have won against Arizona, were it not for some early game mistakes, looked real good against Arizona, who I think is a top half NFL defense. I don't think they're in the top 10 necessarily.
No, I think they're a solid unit, though.
Defense, they have. I mean, any defense that's throwing Patrick Peterson and some of the pass rush guys they have up front at you, it's not a slouch defense. And they have one of the better safeties in the league as well. So I don't. I think it's like you said, there's a bit of a spark. Some of it may be play calling. I think things look more inventive for Hurts. I don't know if that's a Wentz not feeling comfortable situation. I don't know if it's a coach not feeling comfortable in Wentz situation. But I don't think there's a lot that Jalen Hurts can do other than gallop at full speed that Wentz also cannot do.
Right.
I feel like from an inside the pocket and a passing situation, and when you're talking arm strength, Hurts doesn't have the same arm strength as Carson Wentz. So if you're asking him to make throws, now you're at the end of the year, Alshon Jeffrey, whether it be Hurts just likes him or he's finally healthy, that would have been a huge boost for most of those games that Carson Wentz played to have him.
Sure.
You have 2 tight ends again, not just 1.5. You have presumably and what looks like a healthy Miles Sanders. So you have a lot of pieces in play. Maybe that was the goal, to wait to unleash Hurts until he had the weapons to feel comfortable. But then at that point, why are you waiting that long to pull Carson Wentz, who you just paid $100 million? Why wouldn't you see what he can do with the same tools? So like, there's a lot of weird question marks at play. But either way, the play look. All of a sudden, Quez Watkins is active, who's been a healthy scratch for half the year. For Arcega-Whiteside, by the way, most of those games, who barely played snaps in any of them anyway. Quez Watkins comes into the game, catches a 3rd or 4th down reception, 12 yards behind the first down line to gain, and runs it not only there but all the way to the house for a touchdown. By the way, keep that on your radar for a little later in the show. And but yeah, I see a lot of these, and maybe it is what hurts. Maybe people are excited to play with the kid. I don't know, but the bottom line is maybe you got to shut the media up when there are all these questions, and you're like, I'm not sure. Maybe Wentz is our guy. You should have just been more confident in Wentz, given him the plays, asked him what he's comfortable doing, and then let him do it, because you're clearly not holding anything back from Hurts, and it looks more and more like they were holding things back from Wentz. So I don't have an answer for you other than that Hurts is your quarterback through the end of the year as far as I'm concerned.
Huddle Up Podcast is sponsored by Arena Eats. Log on to the website arenaeats.app, that's arenaeats.app, for the ultimate fan experience. At your favorite sports venue, Arena Eats mobile app, pre-order, express pickup, and in-seat delivery. How do you place your order? Matt, I feel like you have thoughts.
Welcome to Philadelphia, where you either die a hero or you live long enough to become the villain. I was thinking about this earlier today, and since I started taking sports seriously as a fan, I can think of 4 Philadelphia athletes who were just beloved from their start to finish in Philadelphia. And
were any of them quarterbacks?
None of them were, surprisingly, right?
No.
Shocking.
And only one of them was actually a Philadelphia Eagle, and that was Dawkins. So I had Dawkins, Utley, Halliday, and Iverson. Those are my 4 that the fans loved. Everyone else has just kind of been run out of town.
I think the other Eagle you could say would be maybe a Reggie White. Maybe.
Yeah,
that would be my other argument, but sure.
Yeah, and that would be fair, just because his time with Philly was short-lived, too.
Yeah, that helped.
So what kills me is the fans clamoring for Wentz to just kind of take his licks and sit on the bench. Why wouldn't a starter want to start football games? I mean, take a look at, I don't know, Jalen Hurts, who didn't like sitting on the bench at Alabama, so he transferred to Oklahoma. Same mentality. Winners want to be in a position to win, so you can't knock someone for wanting to be in that position. And from what I've seen with Wentz on the sideline, he looks like he's playing the part of backup quarterback. I don't see him really pouting. I see him kind of celebrating when they show him talking to Hurts.
I saw him working with him on the iPads and doing everything else. Right. Yeah, he's doing his diligence. Sure.
So the eye test is he's doing the right things. But, I mean, Philly, the fans and the media are going to see what they want to see. So it's just an unfortunate situation. I wouldn't blame him if he really did want to leave. Like Sean said, I don't know how possible that is financially. So I do think next year we'll probably see them both in here. And for all the grief I gave Notre Dame for their offensive coordinator search earlier, Philadelphia's was even worse because they don't even have an offensive coordinator.
Nope.
So when you have a guy in Doug Peterson who's proven throughout this season that he's not great at calling plays, that's probably going to be a problem for anyone who's trying to run an offense with a no-name coordinator. So it looks a lot more inventive these last couple weeks. Maybe that is just, let's try something new and exciting. Maybe people did just get healthy at the right time. It just kind of seems like there's two other people in higher positions than Carson Wentz who are also trying to save their jobs, and they're finally pulling out all the stops to make it happen. And that's
not giving Wentz any packages of plays, though. I thought, all season Hurts has been getting a play here and a play. They didn't sprinkle Wentz in at all. Were you surprised, on a 3rd and long, you don't just get the cannon of Carson Wentz in there, heave it over someone's head.
Or on a 3rd and 1 where Wentz is 98% successful at converting those. It
would also be a prime candidate. But they're not going to do that, of course. And
for me, and again, obviously, I don't watch every Eagles game from start to finish. I'm not tuned in the same way to the Eagles that you guys are. But to me, it never felt like like a Carson thing. Like I felt the times that I saw the Eagles with Wentz under center, it just felt like the offense was bland, predictable, obvious, things like that. I mean, any of those bad adjectives that you can put on an NFL offense, and they've looked completely different over the past couple of weeks. And I don't know if it's they feel more confident with Jalen Hurts moving around or what it is, but to me it feels like two very different offenses. It doesn't feel like it's the same team. It doesn't feel like it's the same offensive unit. So that's from my perspective, it seemed kind of baffling that that they've given Hurts opportunities that they haven't given to Carson Wentz, and it may just be there's more confidence in certain aspects of the game, but I agree with you, Matt. I wouldn't blame Carson Wentz if he's somewhere else, particularly a certain city in the middle of Indiana that has a head coach that he's very familiar with.
He kind of knows, yeah.
He kind of knows that guy. And let's be honest, they're probably going to need a quarterback after this year. Like, I just don't know.
Philip Rivers has to go back to his 38 kids.
Yeah, I don't.
Hey, those 38 kids aren't going to feed themselves. He's got to make money.
Well, that's true.
He can back up Carson Wentz.
Yeah, that'd be a great. Chad Henne's done it. Chad Henne's done it very well for his entire career as a backup. Still a backup, by the way.
First it was Nick Foles.
Exactly. So
Nick Foles.
And maybe
he's like, oh crap, I gotta play.
Yeah,
like the boys snaps it up, goes out and wins, 4 in a row and wins the Super Bowl.
But yeah, so
can I go back to the sidelines, please, Coach?
But so I don't know where Carson will be, but I wouldn't blame him if he does end up somewhere else. But we'll obviously see how that plays out through the off season.
I hope he lights it up so that, and I say this so facetiously because they won't, but it would teach the Philly fans.
Oh yeah, no, and we've all had that like one guy that the fans for our favorite
coach in New England that would absolutely kill to have Carson. Could you imagine Carson Wentz somehow winding up in New England?
That
winning a Super Bowl, be awful.
He'd love that. But yeah, I mean, we've all had that, like a player from time to time on one of our favorite teams that the fans of that city just do not appreciate. And if they go somewhere else, you always want them to succeed. But we will keep an eye on that. Huddle Up Podcast is sponsored by Arena Eats. Log on to the website arenaeats.app, that's arenaeats.app, for the ultimate fan experience. At your favorite sports venue, Arena Eats mobile app, pre-order, express pickup, and in-seat delivery. How do you place your order?